Hell is other people. Jean-Paul Sartre, No Exit, 1966. Fully flexible philosophical action figure. Collector's item. Authorized use by the name of the Wayland Incorporated French Republic. 10% of the profits will go to support the resistance fighting against the new Reich in the Southern Front. Do your part. Down with retrofascist capitalism. Action figures of radical philosophers were the latest retro craze to come out of France. The huge billboard advert was visible from the porthole of the fiberglass submersible as you and your friends were approaching the port of Calais. They came in human-sized boxes wrapped in transparent paper, fully robotized, capable of delivering wise philosophemes out of the most complete databases of the history of ideas available at the push of a button. On voice command, they could answer complex existential or metaphysical questions and provide self-help advice. You could also download their apps into your implanted smartphone, wisdom for a few pound credits. All-action rad philosophers were, in all aspects of detail, fully human. They were perfect seventh-generation androids, tall, mobile, conversant, emotional. You had never seen them with your own eyes until the day when you and your sister won a shopping expedition to ex-London Central City in a wireless TV program. You stopped in front of the windows at Selfridges a few days before 3 Christmases. And there they were. Karl Marx, Sigmund Freud, and Friedrich Nietzsche in retro hipster gear at the center of the Windows holiday arrangement. Each figure had a soundbite, depicted as one of those bubble-like vignettes used in old-fashioned comic books. It read, "By us, we are the masters of suspicion." To the left, Anacarsis, the Scythian. At the center, Ernesto Che Guevara. And to the right, your all-time cold favorite, Slavoj Žižek. Caption: Do you think your righteousness will pay back your debt? I doubt it. Support the revolution. You were particularly impressed by the Žižek figure. It looked the piece. Disheveled and kempt, its gray t-shirt covered in sweat and Coca-Cola stains. The window was interactive. Your sister pressed the key on the window screen and Slavoj walked towards you. Fixing his blue eyes on yours, the android shouted, "Fuck you!" A spray of sweat and saliva covering the window. It was the coolest thing you had seen in a very long time. "I get him, sis," you said. "I would pay to get told off like that." This is a bass-soaked overlay that reverbs, saturates the line of succession and temporal orientation towards an untimely end. It opens an interval in time-space, the lowest rhythmic interval before becoming music or wave, an action mass-scale wave, which acts sometimes as if made of billiard ball parts, and other times sloshing like watery waves. Waves coming together in rhythmic overlay to create a super wave that no archive can place in a final resting place. The revolution will not be televised, he said, but our protest will be sampled. A bass-soaked overlay that reverbs, saturates black matter, opening la frontera border en el fin. A void vortex, an open wound, heridas abiertas con venas abiertas and void vortices, vorágine verde, whirlpools of water. Everything comes from there, to which everything returns, for there is no loss, no beginning, no end, but base suspense, base-soaked relay outside of today's visual array. Consider her poetic. US headquartered companies bought the rights to water in other countries south of the border, she said. These companies are strangers to the gods of those waters, were not formed from them, have never said gracias to those waters, never prayed to those waters, have never been cleansed by those waters, she said. Is there any chance the gods, Coatlicue, Mother Earth, may come back angry? That is why we protest. Not the human we are not, but the thirsts protest, the hunger protest, the lack of air protest. That is why we protest, because there is no air and we cannot breathe. The knee on the neck, the police baton, the crack in the skull. We know the revolution will not be televised, but the protest will be sampled. Caught up, caught in, and overlaid intervals between imaginals, as in the film Now. Rhythmic sound overlays to see, hear, and think sense, not to contemplate, but to action. Therefore, no wonder and no fear, but word cinemas, dwelling, rambling, wandering. We trans-move, looking forwards, moving backwards, looking forwards, gathering manumine under moonlight. We dance walk, searching in futures past for light of what is to come, but not yet, and what is gone, but not for long. We walk together, an alliance without allegiance, rhythm-wise but not straight, in bass-soaked intervals, until we reach the crossroads where the old has died but hangs on, zombie-like, and the new wants to be born but not yet. Here, a new beginning beckons us from afar, back to the heart, back to the womb, back to the matter of futures past, which never stop. If we stop thinking metamerically, we may distinguish diametrically, vertiginously, the light of lighthouses from the lanterns of wreckers wishing to lure us aground, to loot us and enslave us. We know the feeling, the feeling that we must break free from these chains, shed this body. It is not the body which is a kind of clothing, but clothing which is a kind of body. And what they fear is our consciousness, fear of black consciousness. It is, as the poet says, take my body and make of it a nation, but one without confession, without allegiance, without the assumption of the homogeneous body of the nation, which is a simulation, an American way of forgetting the natives by calling them Indians. Discover them with city, crumble them by city, erase them into cities named for their bones until you are the new natives of your new cities. But who lies beneath these streets, these universities, these art museums and centers? She asks. Let us cross the border in the opposite direction, go south. At sea to see, really see here a rhythmic overlay, a bass-soaked relay that reverb saturates without delay, for we can no longer wait. Thank you. Do we have time for another? Assad says we have time for another. So this one is for you. Montage. Can reading be revolutionary? A response to reading as an activity revolutionary because it allows the processing of information that will incorporate and meditate upon the precise tools at our disposal for the socialization of private wealth, alongside the necessity to focus on the community basis of care, a base-soaked relay. Readers are not bookstagrammers. with large followings, but the people who get on with living. The avid vanguard reader, a trickster. The grassroots publisher, a trickster. The producers of culture, all tricksters. Reclaimers of culture from the bland way form the undercommon network. We who stole the reading lists from the institution to share them with friends in a socialist reimagining of what poets in Henry VIII's court would have done. Beginning with Thomas More, torturer utopian, whose island republic we reclaim as ours. The avid vanguard reader is always focused on their love of work. She comes from a common experience of having already faced hard work, oppression, and endless war. The community that builds in the margins of second-hand texts, sharing and writing letters to the others, holding and maintaining a space for disagreement aesthetically, but with a common understanding of what this kind of practice entails politically. The knowledge that there is a better way to do things and that the desire is flaring up in spaces across the world. The avid vanguard reader is really about this life, the thread between lives and localities, building commons each time they support the small presses and vanguard cultural producers. But why do we hold on to the utopian image of a vanguard? Let me leave you with this one for summer. End of season. Only the scent remains, then it withdraws. Rites of passage, as the sun sets forever, never returns. Moving backwards, looking forwards, a vaster way of seeing things which are no more, but are much more actively present in the realer real, of which only the scent remains, then it withdraws. The first peoples trailed Gichigami to the marshes. Zizi Baakwa Dabu in spring, gathering Manu Min in autumn. Before winter sets, they return, Muning Guanekaning here. When rain comes sudden, scarecrows share an umbrella. On moon night, the mirror tigers crowd around forest blood, talking to the stones. The motion of seasons, Naana Boshu, is the wind of our brothers and sisters, the stones. The cool breeze bends the cat's whiskers, then it withdraws, delacing the shrouds of the terminal creeds. Two is more than you and I. The ghost of my father comes, walking the clouds, a visual historier, soaring to the woodland rhythms, the Oshki and Ishinaabe. I am not, for I is we, and no more. More creation takes place between tellers and listeners, and it is not time-bound. Creation is not time-bound, but exists in the act of telling. Events enacted once more and more before the sunset, then it withdraws. Thunder clouds gather, the sea applauds the stones, crow marks the night. Time keeps, like these rites of reading, of passage, which we go through in the darkness. Then it withdraws, and the sun rises. Thank you.